Hello and welcome to the Switchrpg podcast. I am one of your hosts, Gio, and I'm joined by just Jonny. What's going on?
It's going good.
All right, it's going good. If this is your first time listening to the show from Switchrpg.com, where we bring you the latest in the world of RPGs on the Nintendo Switch. This week, we are talking about action RPGs. This show is just dedicated to them.
Look, action.
Action.
We're gonna be doing kicks and splits.
For the people who don't have eyeballs while listening to this, he's wearing a Bloodsport shirt. And I am wearing a Cinco de Mayo Star Wars shirt. I am like a day behind on everything. Yep. In fact, I thought today was Wednesday. In fact, it's Tuesday. I don't know what's going on anymore.
It's okay.
Anyway, don't forget to visit our Discord at discord.switchrpg.com. Visit us on Twitter at SwitchRPG. And buy some stuff. Go to the merch store and SwitchRPG.com. All right, Jonny. Let's try and keep this short, okay?
Yeah.
What are you playing?
So.
All right, good. On to me. Sorry. go ahead.
Final Fantasy Tactics.
You finished it.
Finished it.
And what do you think? Well, yeah. What do you think?
It is by far the best Final Fantasy game I have ever played.
Wow.
By far. Like, the story is there is a major complaint I have, which is the translation is awful. Awful. The localization and translation of the writing and the dialogue is, so you kind of have to think, read it and kind of
figure it out on your own.
Figure out what they're actually talking about in some instances. Some other ones, it's like, okay, but it's like poorly written, stuff like that. And this is the original Final Fantasy, the War of the Lions remake on the, PSP or Vita? I think it's PSP. Yeah. That one, they redid they actually added some story segments, but they also redid the entire story, not the story itself, but the dialogue. They rewrote it in a very different way. And in some ways, they also changed character names. Like, they did some very different takes on things on the War of the Lions one. So I can't speak too much on that, other than the writing is obviously better in that one. But they also did stuff like they inserted that old English, hear art thou kind of stuff.
Oh boy, that brings me very back to high school. I'm already getting nightmares from it.
So they did that. So I'm not too keen on that one. But I played the original, so if you can look past the dialogue stuff, the story's awesome. It's a really good story. It just betrayals left and right. The gameplay is phenomenal. It is the best Final Fantasy turn-based Final Fantasy battle mechanics you'll ever find anywhere. It's by far the best one. Well, it gives you the keys to the car, and you get to drive it, and that car is fully loaded with every single option you could possibly want.
From the start?
From the start.
Okay.
It's awesome.
So are you not into where you just kind of, your party just progresses through the story? You kind of just want everything all at once? Is that what this is?
No. It's what I mean by that is you still have to progress your characters. Okay. You still have to level them up, earn new jobs, and it's just a matter of experience. You don't have to wait for certain story beats to happen. You just gain enough experience and you unlock the next set of jobs. Okay. And as you're gaining experience, you're spending your job points, which is kind of like experience, to buy new abilities. So there's never any storyline gating that's preventing you from progressing your character. So you can kind of set up the perfect party and spend 100 hours to build the perfect party right off of the first chapter of the game. Because you could just constantly initiate in random battles and stuff like that. Like I said, they give you the keys to the car, and as you got to learn how to drive it. But once you learn how to drive it, it's everything's there for you. The rules are there for you. They're laid out, and you can kind of exploit it. It's a min-maxer's dream. A lot of min-maxing stuff that can happen. Now, there's a lot of weird hidden stat stuff that they don't explained super well. Part of that is also because of the bad localization. So you might need to like dabble a little bit here and there if you want to in like some like tutorial videos, helper assistant stuff, FAQ type stuff,
Mm-hmm.
all over the internet or something like that, just to like get a if you want to dig deeper, that sort of supplemental stuff helps you out. But
And
you don't
I mean,
really
all
need to do any of that. You
yeah.
can just play the game as is and not really worry too much about the underlying mechanics of things, and it's just awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a place to all your favorites, right? Like it's your tactical kind of RPG.
Yeah.
You're min maxing. You love to do that. It kind of plays through all your strengths, I guess you could say. So it makes sense that this is kind of your favorite.
Well, I'm not a fan of min maxing. I do like to min max, but
I
I'm
mean,
okay
this
with
goes from the
balance.
dude who played Fire Emblem Three Houses and put
Yeah, yeah,
like an obscene amount of time into it
yep.
because you had to see every nook and cranny of it. But you're not a min maxer. My apologies. My apologies.
I'm not a min maxer if the combat mechanics aren't challenging. Then I don't feel compelled to min max. Even if they
Right.
give the option, I just won't. I just don't need to do it. Right. I'll only min max if the core gameplay mechanics are solid, like rock solid, like not only are my characters abiding by these well-defined rules, but the enemies are abiding by these same exact well-defined rules, and the playing field is pretty much balanced.
Okay.
And that is Final Fantasy. Like the enemies, their stats, their gear, their abilities, it's the same stuff. They mirror what you have access to, more
Gotcha.
or less. Like there's some creatures that have unique abilities. There's some characters in the story elements that will have their own unique job that gives them access to some unique abilities and stuff like that. But for the most part, if an enemy has 8 speed and you have 9 speed, you're going to start before they do.
Mm-hmm.
Every single time. There's no like shenanigans that happen.
There's no like surprise attack or ambush, that sort of
No,
stuff. Yeah.
no.
Okay.
I mean, there might be like some weird scenario based storyline stuff, but when it comes to like random battles and most of the story script stuff, yeah, absolutely. Like there were some boss fights where the boss would go first, and their attack was so powerful that it would either devastate me completely, or the follow up attack would devastate me.
Oh,
So then I brought a party of fast people to go first,
I
to act
gotcha.
first, to get around that. So as long as you understand the mechanics, that's the beauty of the game. And they give you, and it's very flexible. You can change your characters, your sort of your party loadout, your build,
Mm-hmm.
kind of on the fly. You can, if you feel like you don't need, black mages in the game. I think they're just called wizards. If you don't need wizards, then you can just bring ninjas, right?
Yeah.
Like weird stuff like that, samurais and knights and whatnot, and you can kind of adapt, change your accessories that have a very big impact, and your gear and stuff like that. So they made like the fine tuning of your characters something that you want to play around with. And the reason why it relies so heavily on that is because this is not a game that you're exploring, town to town. There's an overworld. You're not exploring. It's a map, and you go
Yeah.
from one node to another. So they cut a lot of the unnecessary fat out of the typical RPG experience, and they give you a very refined core experience centered around combat and fine tuning your characters. So because of that, it does it so well because that is the only one of the major focal points, and it's not wasting its time doing these other things like giving you this city to that you can fully explore through
Sure.
in 3D or 2D or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a very different way of making an RPG. Really. I mean, do you wanna build up the environment? Do you want that to tell its story as well? Or whether it's in a certain town instead of going, node to node. It's a very focused. It sounds like it's a very focused in its combat and its stats really.
Yeah, it's exactly that. It's very focused, and the way the battles. So the story takes place most of the story takes place like as the battles occur, and the characters will, as you're doing the battles, the characters will exchange dialogue. There's also story elements where it's just scenes playing out, not in the middle of a battle or anything like that. So there is stuff like that. There's also some instances of cutscene type stuff, but especially when the stories are playing out in the midst of a battle, and how the levels to the battles are built, it is so micro epic. It's some of the most. It's like,
did you say micro epic?
yes,
Right,
because it's like a diorama.
I'm gonna trade. I'm trademarking that right now. Sorry,
micro
go ahead.
epic.
Micro
Okay.
epic. Okay.
Every level, every battle arena looks like a diorama.
Oh, that's cool.
Diorama.
Diarrhea. Yep.
Yeah, kind of like Captain Toad.
Yep.
Right. And
Yoshi's Crafted World.
I would say more like Captain Toad because you can fully rotate the camera around the world.
Right. Okay. With Yoshi's,
like Captain Toad.
It's a little more fixed.
Yeah. Exactly. And because of that, they also leverage the verticality, and this is something that a lot of modern day Me2 tactics games miss entirely, is the verticality. Not just the verticality of, this terrain is higher than that terrain, but they will have, for example, a bridge that you can stand on, but also water underneath that bridge that you can also stand on. And they are vertically on two different planes.
Right.
And there's an in-between space, right? There's like open air in between there. And if you try to shoot something from while standing underneath the bridge to something that's standing on top of the bridge, you're not going to hit it because there's a bridge in the way. So there's line of sight stuff that you have to consider. It is so well done, and
nice.
to combine that with all the dialogue exchanges, it's by far the best Final Fantasy game I've ever played. I played a bunch. I didn't play them all, but it's the hardest.
So when Jonny rates this game, he's probably going to give it a 5 out of 10, maybe. Maybe.
It's way higher than that.
That's good.
Way higher than that. So I finished that.
Gotcha.
And then, as I said last episode, I was gonna go through sort of the trilogy of PlayStation games that this individual made, or a subset of games that I'm sort of following along suit. So since then, I've been playing Vagrant Story, and I've been playing that very, very hard.
Oh boy.
And oh man, there's a lot of stuff for me to say about that. I'm probably not going to cover it right now.
Please.
But
well, I'm assuming by the next episode you'll still be playing it, so we can.
No, I'll probably be done.
Well, that's good. We can still talk about it.
Yeah. Definitely talk about that. But that is a frustrating game. I expected to go in. I went in, did that like whole beginning story segment, loved it, and then started to play around with the combat mechanics and start to play the game, and then like frustration. But now I'm like out of that. So it's like a valley that I went down, like a bad valley, and now I am like out of the valley, and now I'm in like the good end. And
right. It's like trying to learn a new language. You're really trying to. It's tough at the beginning, but once you get over that, you're fine. You're fine.
But if I had to compare it based on what I've been playing so far, Final Fantasy Tactics still blows it out of the water.
Wow.
Vagrant Story is great, but Tactics is just way better. It's just a funner, finer tuned game to play through, less frustrating and stuff like that. And then other games, Radiant Historia and Banner Saga, and I think I'm actually getting close to finishing Radiant Historia. So
nice. Well, I still have yet to put mine even in my 3DS, so I will get there. I will get there eventually. But what I've been playing, Jonny, what I've been playing is Operencia is still playing that. Dreadnautical, I might be done with that because I'm not happy with the gameplay loop. It's essentially you wake up, you don't know, who you are, but you wake up, you talk to an NPC, you clear the floor of enemies, whatever it is. You try and recruit members and you do it all over again. You recruit members to your party, and it's essentially that's all you can just keep doing. So it is a tactical RPG, and I think the other aspects of the game is just not doing it for me. Like the voice acting is not that great. The environments aren't that interesting to me. So I don't know. I might be done with that one, to be honest. It's I think you've mentioned it before. Time is precious. So there's so many other games that are really gonna kind of take my attention. So unfortunately, Dreadnautical might get the hook. But I've also been playing Cloudpunk. Cloudpunk. I've been playing that on PC. It is slated to come to the Switch, so I'm just trying to get a taste of what is expected, and it's actually pretty decent. I put a little more time. Just for people who don't know, we recorded this last week, lost the recording, so we're kind of doing this over again. So since that time, I put a little bit more time into it, and I'm actually really, really liking it. So I think a lot of people are going to enjoy this game when it eventually comes out for the Switch. I don't want to say too much about it, but I mean, you're essentially a courier, and it's kind of I don't know if you would even call it a legal courier. So it's set in this kind of a cyberpunk kind of setting, and you're essentially tasked with bringing packages from the customer or client to the customer or whatever you want to call it, and there's stuff that happens in between. So that is
it's still primarily a story based.
yes, there's no combat in it. But again, not all RPGs need to have that.
But without it, is there some degree of player choice, agency in there, or
There's a lot of player there's player choice, there's dialogue options, there's kind of a
does it have an impact? Is it going to lead to dramatically different?
it'll change. Yeah, it can change on what jobs you will get. But you're kind of still forced through the main narrative though. So I'm not entirely sure if there's a lot of branching stuff going on. I'm still kind of just forced through the same. I'm just doing what they tell me to do, you know. But yeah, no, it's very much an RPG. I want to say there's got to be branching narratives in there. It just has to be because I'm making choices on things, right? I would
Well,
I would like to right, I would like to believe that my choices are impacting the story. Okay? I don't know. I would like to believe that.
there's like making choices, Fire Emblem, which is very significant, and then there's like
Sure.
making choices, Zelda, which is like very insignificant.
Sure. Yeah, right.
Dialogue choices.
Right. So, yeah, I don't know. I think I still need to put maybe just a little more time in there. I'm not sure how long the game is. But I think I have maybe 4 hours into it. And the reason why it's so little is because I finished 2 games. I basically never finish games, and this quarantine has just did it for me because I just have more time to play games. So again, I've completed a game that we won't mention, Divinity Original Sin 2. And then also Trials of Mana I've finished, as well as Darksiders Genesis. I finished both those games, and I do recommend getting those games, whether or not they're on sale. Actually, right now, Darksiders Genesis, I just saw it for $15 on Amazon, a physical version. And I think
The
games.
Switch version?
What's that? The Switch version, yeah.
Wow.
So I think typically it's $40. So if it's still there, bite on that game. That is definitely worth $15. But yeah, with Trials of Mana, I mean, it does have its issues, but overall, it's still a very good game. I could harp on some of the bad things like everyone else has, kind of like the voice acting is kind of be questionable in some areas. I had some issues. A lot of people point out frame rate. I think people just like to point out frame rate when it's not even that bad. Like it was barely noticeable for me on on the Switch version. I think people just like become video game snobs and mention frame rate and everything. I mean, it's not, in my opinion, frame rate isn't really important unless it's really affecting gameplay. And in my opinion, it does not affect gameplay in Trials of Mana.
Yeah, I agree.
So I
Oh,
mean, honestly, it should not even really be mentioned, but I feel like it's mentioned in every single review I've seen in Trials of Mana. Were you gonna say something, Johnny?
no, I'm in agreement. If frame rate gets in the way of gameplay, then yes, mention it. But if
Yeah,
it's not getting in the way of gameplay, then
right.
don't mention.
But I think people I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just this day and age. But FPS is frames per second. It's like mentioned everywhere, and I just think it's just come to a point where people just I don't know become snobs over it. I don't
Well,
know.
it depends on the game. Some games you can clearly tell frame rate does get in the way sometimes. Like
Sure.
Breath of the Wild, when that first released, frame rate was an issue. And then they patched it and it got better, and that was
But
it.
did it really affect the way you play the game, or you know what I mean?
Sometimes, very rarely. To me,
Very
the frame rate
rarely.
never got in the way on Breath of the Wild.
I
But for
mean,
other games
hmm
like Bloodborne, yeah, the frame rate got in the way.
right, right, and I mean, it's so I guess it's worth a mention. You know, there were some times where frame rates dropped, but it didn't really like that caveat has to be in there where it didn't affect the gameplay. Like even in like Xenoblade Chronicles 2, there were so many, especially in handheld mode. I don't because I played most of that game in handheld, especially, and it looked ugly by the way, but I love that game. The frame rate drops so much so sometimes, but I'm like, I don't even care. I'm having such a good time. I really, honestly, I could care less. This is
Uh,
so much fun.
Xenoblade's a weird one because I played that game almost entirely on docked, and it wasn't a frame rate issue, but the resolution
Hmm.
would drop,
Right.
dynamic drop here and there. So it went from being visually super impressive to being like blurry at times.
Yeah. So that might have been some compensation
Yeah,
going
but the
on
frame rate
there.
was solid.
Yeah, not in handheld. But like I said, it's definitely worth a mention. It just didn't really bother me whatsoever. But yeah, again, Trials of Mana, there I guess there's that. Again, it doesn't affect gameplay whatsoever. I did have, and you see this with a lot of action RPGs where you lock on a target, and there's kind of like that dance going on. You kind of sometimes Dark Souls it happens there where the
All the
kind of yeah, where the camera just gets in a funky spot, and you're like, okay, which way is up? Like I have no idea what the heck is going on. There are
Yep.
a lot of moments of that, and it did have some times where I couldn't really telegraph some of the enemies' movements or kind of their attacks, other than unless it was a big AOE attack. AOE attacks are really clearly telegraphed with markings on the ground. Those are fine. It was more like the regular single attacks that could knock you back, knock you down, those type of things. But I mean, otherwise, yeah, get the game, get it, Johnny. You should get this game. Telling you.
The combat just looks like a lighter version of Tails, so
Yeah,
without multiplayer.
yeah.
So
I mean, it doesn't have some of those things that the original had, like your multiplayer.
yeah.
I mean, could they have figured that out? Yeah, I'm sure. We probably would have paid a premium for it, but I mean,
Well,
some things are make or break, and that's a break for you. So
here's the thing for me. For me, it's what would I rather play, Tales of Vesperia on Switch or Trials of Mana on Switch? I would say the story is more impressive on Tales. I would say the combat and gameplay of the combat system is way more impressive in Tales, more elaborate, more in depth. There's the character progression. I don't know too much about the character progression system on Trials, but Tales pretty in depth. It
hmm
has this whole like hunting of monsters thing, so you can get the
right.
drops to craft the gear,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
very
No, you're right.
satisfying.
I think you're right though. Tails does have a lot more going on, and Tails is probably a better game. I could definitely agree with that. They're
And
just
then it also has the multiplayer.
yeah, yeah. Multiplayer. I've mentioned this a million times. Has no effect on my opinion.
Yeah.
Mostly because I don't play a lot of multiplayer games. I'm in a house with a 5 and a 4-year-old, so or a 6 and a 4-year-old. I'm getting old. So I mean, unless it's online, I'm really not playing with anyone. So that definitely doesn't change my opinion on things. But I could see where in your situation, you have people in your house where you could definitely take advantage of that.
Yeah. But
Um,
even without that, just with having the better story, the better combat system, uh, I would just, me personally, I lean more towards Tales, and because that combat system truly is like, it's a league above Trials.
Yeah, I mean it's more nuanced. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Which Trials of Mana is more. It's a more simple version of an action RPG. It's more button mashy than Tales is. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would definitely agree with there. But I would say that their stories are on par, because depending on who you're choosing as in your party, you get to experience all their stories, and then you also, the party members that you didn't select, they make appearances and they have an effect on the story as well. So there's kind of a lot going on in their worlds as well. So I think I mean, yes, it's also a shorter game as well. But I don't know. I think the story's it's a toss up there. But
I don't know about that. The story in Tales of Vesperia specifically is
yeah.
pretty good.
Okay.
It's more mature than other Tales games. There's a lot more intrigue going on
Sure.
and things like that. So
Yeah, I could not get into Tales, and I could get into Trials. It's just
yeah, well,
it's my thing.
Trials, I'm already not the target demographic for
Yep.
that. I'm a little bit too old for a RPG that's meant towards a younger audience. And
What are you trying to say?
you got some glasses on.
Oh, yes, I
It's
do.
a nostalgia brand.
Oh, don't you? This is not nostalgia glasses. It's not nostalgia glasses. Um, whatever. All right. So I also played Dark Side of Genesis. I completed Dark Side of Genesis. I did enjoy it. It felt like every chapter, there were like 14, 15, 16 chapters in it. And it felt like every chapter was a fetch quest. So be ready for that. But it is a good game. It's kind of your isometric, like, for people who don't know, it's an isometric action RPG, kind of in the same vein as Diablo or whatever. It doesn't have your random loot drops. But overall, I had a good time. I think the story is okay. The voice acting is phenomenal. The actual mechanics for combat, is good. It's good. The flow feels good. Everything feels good there. The creature cores, there's a lot to it, and I don't know, because there's a lot of that min maxing that you talk about, but it's a lot of vague min maxing where enemies do 30% less damage when attacking. It's like, wait, what are you talking? Like, this, like, it's like they're almost, a lot of them feel very situational. We're like, I don't even want to use this, but game says I have to use this, so I'm using it. But it was just, a lot of it was situational. So, but anyway,
There's that 30%, that percentile based stuff that I absolutely love.
yes, you do not love it, is what you mean. We will actually get to that eventually, but yeah, creature cores. I think if they could come up with a better system, or a better way of manipulating numbers, I don't know. It just wasn't my thing. But I think overall the game is pretty good. So I still, especially at $15, if this is out and it's still $15, get the game. It's definitely worth $15. And man, I'm tired. That was good. I'm not playing anything else because I want to clear everything out for a game that's coming out like the end of this month. For that Xenoblade Chronicles game.
Oh yeah.
I think regardless of if you've played it or not, everyone is really super excited for that game. And there's so much information coming out. I'm like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear anything else.
That new UK trailer that released, I don't know, today or yesterday or whatever. It was like, it was almost as if, because when they got towards the tail end of that trailer, they're showing the new stuff that wasn't in the original game. What was it, prologue quest?
Yeah, well, I don't remember what it's called, but it's like, yeah, it's a prologue. Yeah.
Prologue, paralogue, whatever it's called. But they were showing some story segments of that, and it was almost as if they were talking directly to me.
Oh, yeah, because they mentioned, like, even if you've played this before, like,
well, it was just the characters were talking in game, doing their little story dialogue stuff, but it sounded like they were talking to me.
Really?
They were like, "Are you ready to go on this adventure?" And I'm like, "Yeah,
Yeah, I am.
again, third time's the charm."
Oh man, I absolutely cannot wait. Now, as far as YouTube is concerned, I'll put up a game preview on that, but I am enjoying that on my own. You guys enjoy that on your own. I'm enjoying it on my own. I want to work through that game at my pace. You guys deal with it on your own. I feel like everyone's gonna have that game anyway. I'm really excited for it. Anyway, new game announcements: cooperative RPG life and farming simulator Roots of Paca announced for the Switch, and that is a kind of like your Stardew Valley, but starting in the Stone Age. So a really interesting take on that genre. Still not a game for me. I have enough chores to do in my life where I don't want to do them in video games. Similar to what Animal Crossing is. I don't get the appeal to it because it's just busy work and I just can't do it. I just can't do it.
I'm with you.
Next is Bug Fables. Bug Fables, I'll say it again. It's a Paper Mario, kind of inspired by Paper Mario.
The art style is
the art style is inspired by Paper Mario. It also has very simple, the numbers that come up. It's ones and twos like someone seems to like here, like Jonny likes. It's very simple based
numbers.
Yeah, which makes sense though, right? They all obviously have to kind of make sense. So Bugs Life, Paper Mario crossover event here. That's what we got here. So that's launching Bug Fables May 28th. And then we have a new one here, Brigandine. Now Brigandine is the Legend of Runersia. The demo is actually out now. I think it comes out either late June or July. I'm not entirely sure.
I'm downloading that demo.
Yeah, I think it's worth a download. It looks really cool. I like the art style. It is it's localized with English text, not localized in terms of voiceover. It's all Japanese.
It's all sub, not dub.
Thank you very much. But it is a hex based strategy or tactical RPG. I'm digging the art style in this. What do you think of this?
The art style's good. It's hard to describe, but it's almost like the characters have like this painterly texture, like the texture's painted onto them. It's 3D models, the environment's 3D modeled, but it's sort of like a combination of cell shading and painted on textures. So it's like a combination of those two things. I would say it's closer to like Cat Quest.
That similar art style, yeah, I could see that.
Cat Quest had some sprites, and this one doesn't have sprites. Everything seemingly is 3D modeled, but it kind of has a similar kind of looking thing. The terrain, not so much, but definitely the characters. Now that I'm looking at it, people are going to think I'm crazy when I mention Cat Quest. But if you look at it when the camera's pulled back, it takes place on a map, just like how
like a world map. So it's really kind of drawn back, yeah.
Like a drawn map, yeah. And this one kind of looks like a drawn map that you're taking these battles onto.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, it looks pretty cool. It's not like troops. It doesn't look like you have troops, at least in the gameplay that I've seen. I haven't played the demo.
No, you definitely have troops here. You can recruit like hydras and weird floppy fishy things.
Right.
And
I guess what I'm talking about, you don't have like a commander and a bunch of troops behind them, like say for example in Fire Emblem, where you have like a support or whatever it is.
That
sort of stuff.
Yeah, that thing in Fire Emblem wasn't really troops.
Whatever that is, it's not in here.
It doesn't have that. It doesn't have like actual troopy type units that are going to die, right? It doesn't have the fodder
or run away, whatever.
Yeah, it's all, you're gonna have multiple characters in your army squad, whatever. That is bigger than, it seems like you can bring 10, maybe up to 20. Those certainly right around 10, and maybe more than 10 units into a battlefield of sorts. And there is damage numbers, there's health bars, There are spells and abilities. There's criticals going on over here. There's status effects like petrify and healing and whatnot.
There's dragons. There's wolves. there's like looks like goblins. There's some mantis looking. I think the art style is really cool. So there's a lot going on here. There also is going to be a limited run game. They're calling it a collector's edition for $75 on May 1st. So yeah, it is. And for what it includes, it's just like a soundtrack, a reversible poster, and a pin. I don't know. Seems kind of steep, but yeah. Take a look at the game. The game might be for you. The game is also $50 as well. So you may have to like this sort of stuff to get this game.
So Brigandine, now that I see it, so the Legend of Runeterra.
That was a good try.
Yep. So that I guess there was
Runerja.
I guess there was an original Brigandine game.
Okay.
That released on the original PlayStation a long time ago.
Okay.
98 it looks like, and I'm looking at some gameplay videos of it, and oh my goodness,
it looks great.
Well, the original game, I don't want to say the ogre, but it looks like ogre battle.
Okay, well, it could be.
It's turn-based.
That's okay. It's games can have their inspirations. You know, it's what they do with those inspirations, right?
Oh no, yeah. Look, that has me super excited.
Oh, okay, good.
That has me super excited. I look at this, I'm like, this looks like ogre battle, but it's like turn-based with hexes. I'm on. I'm checking. This demo has already been downloaded.
No, but here's the kind of the main issue with the demo. The save data from the demo will not transfer over to the full version upon its release. So just know that going in.
That's fine, because I don't know how it's going to taste. If I like how it tastes, and the reviews come out, nice enough, I'm going to have a feast.
There you go, Brigandine. All right, so really quick, I wanted to mention this Indivisible. This happened a couple weeks ago. Again, this is our second try at this episode. Indivisible was kind of just released. There was some confusion about why it was released. I think though they have figured out why it was released. I'll have to pull it up. I should have pulled it up, but I didn't. Anyways, it's been confirmed that the Switch went live earlier than planned, with the game scheduled to come out in early May. And it actually came out when was it? April 28th. So it was supposed to come out in early May, but it came out earlier than that. This means that the planned day one patch has not been applied to the game, so there will be no 30 FPS toggle. That word again. There will be no support for 1080p via docked, and there will be no co-op and New Game Plus. That will be added at a later date because this was put onto the eShop earlier than expected. There was an explanation. I don't have that pulled up right at the moment, and I don't want to look for it right now because I want to move on to the next thing here. Disco Elysium arrives on the Mac before a Switch version. Who plays games on Macs? You play games on Macs? No, you don't. Nope. Macs are good for one thing, and that's like video editing and like maybe image manipulation with like Photoshop or whatever. Not many people, unless that's their only option, will install Steam and play games on there. It doesn't really run that great. It's not meant for that. I mean, maybe Disco Elysium isn't really kind of a resource hog, and it probably runs just fine. But where's my Switch version? Do you have it, Johnny?
I don't. I have it. I do have it.
You do have on the Switch?
But you gotta come at me in September.
Oh. All right. So when it comes out in September, he'll have it.
Maybe.
Cool. Maybe. If that's when it is.
I gotta double check with the devs.
Oh, nice. Very nice. All right. So cool. Yeah, I mean, it kind of upset me a little bit. It hurt me. Another thing that happened, and we mentioned this last week, kind of happened 2 weeks ago. The eShop closing for certain regions for the Wii U and 3DS. This is why I will always say go physical, buy physical, always be physical. I'll always collect games because I want the physical version. Because when things like this happen, and unless you have unless you downloaded it before a warning or whatever, you're SOL. You're never, well, you may never be able to download that game again. And for me, that's a problem because you've purchased this. You've actually given money for a product, whether it's digital or physical. So I mean, there's this kind of area where, all right, you kind of should be able to get this at all times. What's the story here? And I don't like that.
Yeah, and not just that, but the fact that some games are exclusive still to the Wii U or the 3DS, and once those eShops close, you can never get those games ever again.
Right. So yeah, that's just. But where is that? Where is that drop off? Where okay, I purchased Pikmin 3, right? Digitally, and now the eShop is closed for whatever reason. I've had to reformat my Wii U, or I get a new Wii U, and I want to play Pikmin 3. Yeah. I cannot get it.
I'm in that boat. I have Pikmin 3 digitally, and I'm in that boat.
Like I mean,
I can never delete it.
You can't. Or if something happens to that Wii U, you'll never be able to get that game. But that's the thing. Like you've purchased it, so I don't know. I mean, how long are they indebted to providing you that product, right? I mean, I guess
yeah. There's a moral to this story.
Buy physical.
Buy physical. That's the moral.
That's why I collect all physical games. Here's a quick example of why I always go physical, or the most recent example of when I went physical. I have the digital version of Darksiders Genesis. The game just went on sale for $15. I bought it for $15. I mean, the game is good enough. I want the physical version, but I have a digital version. I want that physical copy. I'm sorry. I'll always do that. Always. Next, latest Famitsu Most Wanted video game charts. This seems to fluctuate like a lot.
Well, this most recent one definitely flips some tables.
Do we have the week prior to this somewhere? Maybe
I could try to dig that up.
Okay. All right. So we have an article here. I think this is from. Is it from Famitsu? Or
This is an excerpt from Famitsu, yeah.
Man, it's just
this is from the latest edition of Famitsu.
All right, so here's Japan. Okay, so this is what their interests are. So basically, what they're looking forward to the most. Okay, and in this article on My Nintendo News, it lists 1 through 10. Again, this is from Japan, so I'm really kind of surprised with some of these that are on here. Number 10 is The Last of Us Part 2. Again, mostly, yes, it is exclusive to Sony. I understand Sony is very, very popular in Japan, but it's a Western title. So I'm really kind of surprised that it's even made the list. Next is a Nintendo Switch title, number 9, Yushiro. You have any idea what that is? I don't know what that is. It's probably some mobile port to the Switch.
Which one are you talking about?
Yushiro?
I have no clue what that is.
All right, let me quickly look. Oh, it's a level 5 game, so it is probably not. Oh, I do remember Yushiro. Yushiro is kind of like
Yeah, we actually looked at this.
yes, we did. But I do remember the trailer for it cuz it looks very like who's that? Oh my God, Edward Scissorhands, that sort of style. Who's the director for Edward Scissorhands?
Oh my goodness.
Oh my brain. Anyways, I am looking. Do you say something?
There's so many things we have to look up on the fly. We're like so brain farty today.
No, I'm like Tim Burton. I'm like all over the place. So it definitely reminds me of a Tim Burton RPG. This is Yushiro. It's Ushiro. Anyways, that came at number 9. Number 8 is a game I'm like, was this game announced too early? It definitely was. Shin Megami Tensei 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm definitely in it. I definitely want it. I'm interested in it, but all we've seen is like cinematic. Like that's it. That's all we've seen. Nothing in game, nothing at all. And I'm hoping that we'll see something soon.
So I do happen to have the last reporting of the Famitsu readers top anticipated games. So I do have that list as well.
Okay, we'll kind of go over the differences after we're done here. Number 7, I'm surprised this is this low, and it was not this low the last week.
It wasn't. No.
At number 7 is Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. I feel like this should be way up there, and it's not. It's
from 4.
Okay, so it came down from 4. So even then, that's still kind of low from
Same
last
number
week.
of votes, though.
Okay, but there's other things that are taking over. Number 6, Bravely Default, is ahead of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, as again, these are Japanese consumers most looking forward to. So that's number 6, Bravely Default 2. Number 5, Bayonetta 3. Not a game I'm looking forward to, but I can see people wanting to look at this game. Number 4, another PS4 game, Ghost of Tsushima. Yes, is this the game that? Can you school me on this game?
It's made by
Sucker Punch. Yep, Sucker Punch. Yep. Okay.
And takes place. It's basically it's a Western developer take on the feudal Japan era style warfare, and it's a very rogue samurai-esque game. It's very immersive. It's kind of like the Red Dead Redemption, but for samurai.
Is this the game where actually Sony's last E3, where they had like they announced this game? Okay, that was like a long time ago.
They didn't announce it there. What they did the last E3, they had some dude like playing on like a wood flute
thing, yeah, yep.
Audience and like did musical performances, and it was like weird and awkward. no one kind of liked it, but no one hated it. But
yeah, I think they strung like the audience from one room to another. Like on our end, like the people who weren't there, you were just like waiting for things to happen.
And that wasn't a new announcement for that event either. It was just a bigger, in-depth look of it. Graphically, it looks super impressive.
Oh, sure.
It has that kind of one-hit kill kind of combat that you would expect for a realistic simulation-esque samurai game. So,
right.
Like I said, it's like the Red Dead Redemption 2 take style played on, but with a samurai feudal Japan theme covering all of it.
I thought this game was out already, but apparently not. Anyway.
Well, I'm actually kind of excited for it. It's potentially, if it turns out well, then I'd be very, very excited for it. Because it's basically the all the youngins who watched Kenshin way back when. The anime Kenshin, right? They're all grown up now, and this would be the perfect Kenshin game for them.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'll have to agree. Cool. Yeah. Number 3, Cyberpunk 2077. This being at number 3 really is what really stood out to me. This is a very westernized. This is the most Western game on here. This is typically not something you'll see this high in a Japanese market. Not that if you look at a lot of the other games, they're just very different. So Cyberpunk 2077, I think is getting a little bit of traction right now. It's coming up closer to release, and I think Cyberpunk or CD Projekt Red is kind of slowly putting out some information, so people are kind of getting excited about it. And that wasn't even on last week's list. I don't believe, right?
Which one?
Cyberpunk 2077.
So researching it, it looks like the list that we were looking at, the prior week, that was a Nintendo only list. So they kind of filtered out the non-Nintendo games from it and
Okay,
only showed the top Nintendo ones. Because the votes are exactly the same comparing the two.
I gotcha.
So yeah, I do have. So the one that we're
So
looking at is the collective total for the latest issue of Famitsu, which I'm assuming covers an entire month of content.
okay,
So
so it's a
and
potentially it could have been on that list then, except that one
yeah,
was only showing Switch products.
well, so if you look at the votes, you'll see where it lies. But this list, this top 10, is it's just cut off from the additional elements. Those what the other list goes up to like 17, I think.
Yeah,
So
there's quite a bit.
yeah,
Actually, it goes on more than that. It goes up to 30.
there you go. There you go.
Yeah. But that's at number 3 for a Japanese market. That's really kind of high. Number 2, Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. Sorry, almost left that one out. There's been nothing new about this game, and it's still high up on people's list. There's other than I think it was at E3 last year. Other than that snippet, we've got nothing. No, like literally nothing from Nintendo, and it's still at the top of people's brains. They are really excited for this game. I'm just curious. I'm thinking there's going to be some co-op in this, sir. So you might like it even more. So if that's even possible,
I
if
don't think
that's
it's possible unless they do online.
well,
And if they do online, then yeah, what better way to sell the Nintendo online service than
right.
co-op Breath of the Wild?
Yeah, I mean, why couldn't it be local, split screen or whatever?
Split screen on a Breath of the Wild engine running on the Switch? That ain't happening.
That ain't happening. No.
That ain't happening. Technically, that ain't happening.
So how about not split screen? Kind of keep the two people kind of caged together on the same screen.
You make a huge sacrifice of combat.
Hmm.
Huge sacrifice. You're not throwing in an arena in a 3D world. I mean, you got to
Well,
do.
I don't mean arena. You're just kind of limited by screen space. So I guess you
by,
could call that arena.
right, but by arena, there is a directed camera that is maintaining a perspective
Yep.
that accommodates for multiple playable characters.
Yeah. So it's either split screen or nothing, in your opinion. Which split screen couldn't even happen.
No, I'm not saying or nothing.
Oh,
Split screen.
online co-op. I mean.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't recommend split screen. I think online co-op, or they make a sacrifice for doing local co-op. A potentially fairly big sacrifice.
Yeah.
Where it would have to fundamentally play differently,
Right.
combat wise. I don't know why they would do that either way. I mean, they have done co-op. That the other route is they make the co-op very trivial. Like
I don't want trivial co-op like Mario Odyssey.
Mario Galaxy.
I was thinking Mario Odyssey with the.
Does Odyssey have a? Oh, that's right. Like one person controls a hat.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
bad.
Well, Mario Galaxy did that where someone could shoot stars all over the
Okay.
place. They could aim the pointer.
Yeah,
Whereas
I don't want if it's something like that. Don't do it. I don't want it. And the
yeah.
reason why I bring up the co-op because a lot the trailer just shows Link and Zelda kind of on screen a lot. So
I mean, they could do it in a Zelda game. I don't know if Breath of the Wild is the best one, but
right.
in a Zelda game, you could imagine someone controls the fairy. Right?
How
If there's a
how would
fairy,
you take again the story would have to dictate this where you play as Link, story dictates now you play as Zelda for a while and you just kind of not flip-flopping or maybe you are changing narratives, you kind of playing both perspectives. How would you take that? Would you be okay with that?
I would do it. The way I would do it is I would do it exactly like they do it in, well, not exactly, but I would handle it the same way as Castlevania Portrait of Ruin, where there is a button mapping to switch characters.
Okay.
And it's immediate, and once you switch the character, one character leaves, the new character comes in, and now you're controlling that character. Instead of doing it that way, though, where they leave, one person leaves and the other one goes in, because now you're just gaining access to different
Moveset.
different move sets. Instead of it doing that way, I would do it the Resident Evil Zero way, where that an AI then controls that character that you've switched out, and you can issue commands like stay here, so that you can have the characters travel together. One is controlled by AI, or you separate for lots of interesting puzzle reasons, where you can now control the characters separately, and then you teleport, right?
Right. Between
The
characters.
camera, right?
Yep.
The control between characters, and now you can be Zelda in one side of the dungeon, and then be Link on the other side of the dungeon, and you can even probably like do cool stuff like there'll be like a gesture button where you wave your arm, and all of a sudden Zelda like pulls a switch without actually having to like switch characters. That's another way.
But does that something like that adding co-op, does that really changes what the original was, like the original Breath of the Wild? I think.
If it's co-op with another player,
Mm-hmm.
or
just having co-op,
game bait.
Even if it is the way if it's the way you're describing, right, where you can swap easily, magically characters.
With a partner, it could absolutely work. They would have to take lots of influence from God of War.
The remake, not the
remake. Yes.
Yeah.
The
latest, the latest
reboot,
one.
whatever. God of War 2018.
Whatever, the latest rendition of it. Yeah.
Yes.
With the boy, that guy.
With the boy. Yes.
Okay, with the boy.
Because it's Kratos and boy. I forgot his name. Atreyu.
Atreyu?
Yeah, I think it's Atreyu.
And Falcor, is he there?
But I really do think it's Atreyu. It's boy, and I don't want to look at it. Either way, boy, we'll call it boy. Yeah, so they have it there where boy is you're control Kratos the whole time, but boy is controllable by the player, and AI wise is doing their own thing. They're doing their own thing, but you do have a button to have the boy shoot their arrows, or there's other button combinations that you can do where you can have the boy summon creatures and whatnot.
I just don't want it to take away from the what we experienced in the first one. You know what I mean? Anyway, we got off on a tangent here. Let's try.
If they do it that way, the God of War way, where Zelda is the boy instead it's like girl.
No, we don't want to do that. That'll upset a lot of people.
All right, well, Link wouldn't talk, right? So
what would he do then? Oh, no, now we're getting into really
he does a shout out like yeah.
And there he is, and then Zelda just knows.
Zelda just knows, yeah, and she like shoots maybe like the arrow. What's those arrows? The golden arrows? Is it golden arrows? Silver arrows?
You talking the last arrows that they get?
Oh, the light arrows.
Yeah.
But what was it in A Link to the Past? Those silver arrows, right? Or is it gold?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I had to look up. I had to look up Tim Burton's name. You expect me to know these things?
Yeah. We'll say it's the light arrows, just to play it safe. Like she'd shoot the light arrows, and she could do like all sorts of like Din's fire type magical spell stuff.
Okay.
Right. She'd be your cast because Breath of the Wild didn't have any spells.
No,
I had items that did spells, but you didn't have spells. Well, you had the runes, but that's not the same.
That's not the same at all. I mean, yeah, he can spawn a bomb out of nowhere, but whatever. You're right. It's not the same. Now, never mind. I was gonna get it. I was gonna take us even more off the rails, but we're not going. All right. So what were we doing? Oh yeah, Breath of the Wild 2 is number 2 on people's minds, and then number 1, Tales of Arise.
Yeah.
This game looks, and we may have mentioned it before, looks awesome.
Incredible.
It looks, and it's just too bad. I don't think we'll ever see this on a Switch console. I'll say that because I really want it on a Switch console. But this is the game that's really at the forefront of people's minds in Japan.
They know.
I don't even know if this would be on the list if we did it here in the States. I don't even think this would be on the list. And
It's a big deal.
It is a big deal. I really think it is, but go ahead.
Well, the franchise, when it comes to RPGs in Japan, it's basically number 1 and number 2 most popular RPGs in Japan is the Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest series.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure about the order of those two. I think it switches every now and then.
Sure.
Like Final Fantasy is more popular versus Dragon Quest or vice versa.
Depending on what's set to release, I think.
Right. But number 3 most popular RPG series in Japan is Tales.
Mm-hmm.
And Tales has been stagnant for so long, so long, for ages. It's basically been riding on the coattails of Tales of Symphonia way back on the GameCube days. It hasn't changed too much.
That's a long time ago.
It is a long time ago. The last major change was Tales of Vesperia, and then they rode on that engine update for a very long time. And then maybe Graces, there was another tweak. And since Graces, that was it. It's been riding on that same exact engine, same sort of technical limitations and whatnot forever. And it wasn't even that much different from what Vesperia did, from what Symphonia did. And it is different gameplay wise. You know, they all play differently, very different combat systems and storylines and whatnot. But when it comes to like the engine and the limitations of the engine, right? It was just lagging. And then when you look at Tales of Arise, all you have to do is just look at the trailer
with your eyeballs.
With your eyeballs as a Tales fan, and you will immediately understand this is going to be awesome. And it is finally going to change up the old dated formula of Tales games.
It doesn't look anime-esque at all. It looks very modern. It looks modern. The whole time you're talking, I was watching the trailer. I didn't understand. I didn't hear a single word you just said. But it's a modern game. You know, it's not reliant on the anime aesthetic anymore. It's doing its own thing. It almost looks like it's kind of I hate to say it for you because you're more of a Tales fan obviously than I am. I'm kind of new into this all, but it almost looks like a kind of a button masher. I do see other party members on the field, but I get the feeling that it's a little bit more action based this time around. Where it is an action game, but
Tales has always been action packed, and even the trailers will always show like crazy over the top action, almost button mashery. But trust me, Tales is not a button masher style series. There have been some Tales games that are a little bit easier than others, and therefore can be button mashed to a certain degree. But if you turn up the difficulty, like this guy over here,
you're the pro here. My apologies. I'm so glad to be on the same podcast as you.
There's incentive in the Tales series. The Tales fans would know this, right? When you turn up the difficulty, you actually get more rewards.
Right.
You get more loot, you get more experience, etc. Like stuff happens. You get rewarded for doing that by playing the game better and also playing the game at a harder difficulty. And it becomes a different experience when you do that with Tales. And most of the Tales games, they actually very finely balance that difficulty setting. Some Tales games, you usually don't get that extra, insane mode difficulty or whatever until after you beat the game. Some of them, you have to play through the game, and then midway through the game, you'll actually get that extra difficulty mode, and you can change it on the fly. The most recent Tales games, I don't know, probably like the last 5 iterations, you can change the difficulty on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
And the incentive for that is if something's too hard, you can turn it down, but the rewards you're going to get for it get turned down as well.
Right.
So you have reasons to want to increase it or decrease it. It's very rewarding, and in either instance, perhaps not on easy mode, but if you're playing on normal or harder, you gotta block. There's a block. There's a button mapped to blocking,
Right.
and you
It's
will
important.
have to use it. It's very important. Like you actually do have to hold that button and block the attacks. You have to see the enemy, see if they're no longer be flinching from your attacks. You know they're about to counterattack, and you got to hold that block button, or you got to do some sort of dodge, whether it be a side dodge, a back dodge, jump over their head type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like you got to do something.
Right.
It's great. It's fantastic. The Tails combat is awesome, and what they show in that trailer, yeah, I can easily see why Japan is rating or looking are anticipating Tales of Arise more so than Breath of the Wild.
And that game is coming out this year. I thought it was a later. It's scheduled for 2020.
2020, and unlike prior Tales games, which typically have a multi-month separation between the Japanese release and the Western release,
Mm-hmm.
they are aiming for a perhaps not simultaneous, but closer to simultaneous release, worldwide release.
Good.
Which is great. Yeah.
Good. Man, I'm getting more pumped up for it now, and I'll get to play it. Maybe.
Don't waste your time with it.
Nah. All right.
It's got multiplayer. You don't want that.
I won't use it. It's just a feature I don't even need. Don't put it in there. Don't put it in there, guys.
Definitely put it in there. If they don't put it in there, I'm not going to get the game.
You're quit. Well, I'll get it. Perfect.
If that is a hard no for me. If they do not put in multiplayer on Tales,
that would, because that's been in all, like, a lot of Tales games, right? Almost all of them.
Almost all of them, not all of them though. There
Okay.
have been some single player only Tales games.
That's kind of them, like, turning their back on the hardcore fans. Oh, please do it. Hey, guess what, Johnny?
Yeah, what's up?
We have a listener question.
Oh, it finally happened.
Finally, I had to, like, really. All right, this is a question of mine. No, it's not. So I on Facebook, Sebastian. I don't know if this is a play on games or if this is his name. Sebastian Games or Games.
I think it's
know.
games.
Games.
Maybe it's the gamification of Gomez.
I don't know. I don't know what's happening here. I'm going to be honest. I don't know what's happening. But he asked a question. All right. What are some of your favorite action RPGs that are underrated? We came up with a list. Now, we didn't Nintendo Switchify this. This is... We are going to do that, okay? But we didn't do that here. We went to the beginning of time, okay? So, Johnny.
Yes.
If you can concisely tell me what some of your underrated, and I mean concisely, don't Johnnyfy this answer, please. If you could concisely tell me, what are some of your favorite action RPGs that are a little underrated?
I will list off some of the ones I will be very concise on. So, Castlevania: Order of Ecclesia.
Okay.
It was the last known Castlevania, Metroidvania style Castlevania RPG, last official one to ever release, like major official one to ever release, and it was kind of overlooked, and it was phenomenal. It was like the best one. Absolutely nailed the balance of the combat between magic versus physical and farming of. They weren't souls. I think they were like shards. It's just very masterful. Gives you all the options that you need to tweak your character, the flexibility to customize your character, multiple environments, different maps, and then one big giant collective castle map. It's phenomenal.
And this
Definitely.
is on the DS, right?
Yes, the DS.
Okay.
Which means not on the 3DS and not on. There hasn't been any Castlevania since. Like any legitimate, Castlevanias that we want, right? The Metroidvania style
Right.
Castlevania.
There was definitely a
Castlevania.
Castlevania after that. It's just not the one you want.
Well, that Castlevania wasn't even a Castlevania. Lords of Shadow.
Yeah.
That's an abomination. It's not a Castlevania game. There's like one part of the game where you actually do go to a castle, and it does feel like a Castlevania game.
Oh,
Not
boy.
a RPG Castlevania game, but it does feel like a Castlevania game.
Uh-huh.
But that's only like 1/3 or 1/4 of the game. The rest of the game is like
It's no bueno.
Yeah, it feels like a God of War game.
Yeah, it essentially turns it into like a third-person action game, right?
It's bad. It's not bad. It's just not Castlevania. That's my problem with it. I wrote a very lengthy one of the first major lengthy reviews I ever wrote was for Castlevania: Lords of Shadow.
Oh boy!
And I reamed it so hard.
But it's a good game, but it just wasn't your Castlevania. It just had the name associated with it.
All right, so other underrated action RPGs. So we just talked about Tales. I'm going to specifically call out Tales of Grace's F. It is by far the best Tale. It is my favorite Tales game in the entire franchise because I think the story is the easiest to follow. It's simpler, but it is still very emotionally impactful. But more importantly, the combat system is the best that Tales has ever been. It is by far the funnest and nuanced and complex combat system that the Tales series has ever developed.
Yeah.
Excellent 4-player multiplayer stuff going on there. Just absolutely phenomenal.
Meh.
Great cast. Very well done game through and through. And then there is System Shock 2.
Ooh.
Which is an oddity, but there's no pause button. It's very much an action RPG. It is weird. It is horror. It's definitely something that people don't pay attention to, but the big call out for that one is System Shock 2 has the best villain in probably any game ever.
Who is the villain?
Shodan.
Who? Shodan?
Don't worry about who the villain is. You just gotta play the game. Don't even research it. Do not research anything about System Shock 2.
Alright, I gotta close all these windows. Hang on.
Close the windows. Yes.
Close all the tabs.
Anyone listening, do not research System Shock 2. Just get it on Steam. It is almost always $5. It's going to be the best $5 you ever spent.
And it's not available on a console. It's only on
PC
or okay.
And this, I kid you not, this will be one of, if you can stick through it, it is a hard game too. It will be one of the best action RPGs that you'll ever play. If you like Bioshock, guess where Bioshock came from? Bioshock came from System Shock 2.
Oh, you didn't even let me guess. Oh.
And Bioshock had some very light RPG elements.
Yeah.
It's basically Bioshock is, oddly enough, a watered down System Shock.
Odd that you say that, right? Because Bioshock is in the... Oh my gosh, the puns are incredible today.
And then the last major call out is kind of like a near and dear to me, which is Pyre. Because that is such a indie oddball that is so beautiful and amazing, and it released I think only like 2 or 3 years ago, and it kind of got overlooked for RPG of the year during that year, or maybe not RPG of the year, but it got overlooked for a bunch of different awards that it should have had either at least a nomination for, and it didn't get it.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, go ahead. I interrupted.
It's just incredible, and it is, I'll kid you not, this will be the best sports RPG you will ever play, ever.
You said sports?
Yes. It's like fantasy sports, though.
Wait, I'm just checking my headphones here.
It's weird.
It's its own thing, really. It's its own sport.
It's not a sports. It is very much it's its own thing. It is so weird out there. The world is one of the best written, sort of fully realized worlds out there. I could talk a lot about Pyre.
Now with Pyre, it's the same creators who did Bastion. They did Transistor, and I think they do it in is it Hades?
Yeah, they're working on Hades right now, and I will say Pyre is their best work yet. I haven't played Hades yet. I'm looking forward to Hades, but I doubt. I think they peaked on Pyre. Pyre is just that good.
Yeah. Don't sleep on Transistor was pretty good too. I didn't play Bastion. I wasn't. I didn't like how small the world felt. Like I don't know, some with it. Although a lot of people like it, I like Transistor as well. So
Pyre is just they cut so much extra fluff out. It's so concise. It is story and sports, and that's it. You're playing story. You're making some decisions as you're adventuring along. There's a lot of decision making, very important, very consequential decision making. It's some of the most important decisions you're going to make in an RPG that you could ever want to make in an RPG. Pyre gives it to you over and over again in such a satisfying way.
Interesting.
It is. It is the. If there's one word to describe Pyre, it is bittersweet.
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 All right. All right. Oh man, do I?
So those are my most underrated action RPGs. What are some of your?
I'm gonna be honest. I didn't do a lot of research in this. So, but I did have a couple that just kind of came right to the top of my head. Just a couple. One is Champions Return to Arms. This is a game that was released on the PlayStation 2. Not to be confused with Champions of Norath. Champions of Norath is not a great game, but Champions Return to Arms is what you it's a loop-based action isometric RPG set in the world of EverQuest. So if you're familiar with the EverQuest world, you have like your dark elves, your kind of your basic setup with the warriors, things like that. But it's a randomized loop-based action RPG. I had put so much time into this. Now this comes from the days where I actually had people to play with, so I did play a lot of this multiplayer, and it was very very fun. Again, I think if they were to do something like this again, I would so get into it because I kind of like those kind of random loop-based action RPGs, and actually it gave you an incentive to replay over and over and over again, looking for the next best item. Essentially, that's what a lot of the Diablo end game is, looking for the best kind of set bonuses, all this other stuff. That's essentially what you're going for. So Champions Return to Arms was kind of my thing, back in the day. Also, another one. It's weird that I poo-poo a lot of co-op or multiplayer games, but this is another multiplayer game that, again, I had good fond memories of. And it's not just this one, but Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, was another one of my favorite games. But not only did I love the Lord of the Rings movies, but then you had like these great. I thought these were great games that came along with it. And again, I played this multiplayer with my brother-in-law. He and I, wow, man, we spent so much time playing this game. But since he grew up and doesn't live in my house, I have no one to play with. But I think this game kind of actually ages pretty well. And I want to say I played this on the GameCube. I think that's when it was released, or what it was released on. It might have been released on another thing, but I played it on the GameCube.
Yeah, it did release on other consoles.
Yeah, but I had a great time with it. And again, it's what you think of when you think of Lord of the Rings. It's kind of, there are some smaller combats, but there also is kind of bigger combat sections of the game. And yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
Very RPG light.
But so is Breath of the Wild. Anyway, moving on. I will come up with a better list. I was debating on whether or not to save this for next week, but Johnny's like, you know what, Gio? If you don't do this, I'm gonna punch you. And I'm like, you know what? I don't like physical violence, and we're doing the whole quarantine thing, so I put it in here. Anyway,
I said those things exactly.
Exactly. That's exactly how I said it. So yes, moving on to upcoming RPGs. May 7th, we have Slayin 2. Slayin 2 is it is an action RPG, and I'm trying to describe this. It is a pixel art type of game, side scrolling, almost. Oh man, I was about to say Contra, but not Contra. How would you Are you looking at it at all?
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
How would you describe this setup here? I'm not entirely sure how. There's like unicorns and stuff. It's kind of weird.
So it does have the two fueled. You know what? I actually played this because this is an indie game, clearly.
Yes. Yep.
That was demoed at Boston Fig. Wow, I kind of want to say 2 or perhaps 3 years ago, and I played this, and it was very addictive. It's very arcadey, as
Yes.
you see within here. But when it comes to like being this bigger, longer RPG experience, it's very lighthearted. You're not going to get something grandiose or something that's going to be serious in tone. It's very action oriented, and the fact that you run into enemies, combat wise, it's reminiscent of Yeast, the like the very old style Yeast
Okay.
game.
Hmm. All right. So maybe a thing. I don't know. May 7th, Slayin 2. Um. Another May 7th release is Pong Quest. So Atari has revitalized the Pong game by making it an action RPG. Again, it's another, you want to talk about lighthearted take on RPGs. This is it. This is it. Your character is the Pong, not the ball, but the paddle, I guess you could call it. That's your character.
Yeah,
But they dress it up a little bit,
a
you know,
little bit. They dressed it up a lot.
a lot of it. But I'm not exactly sure how it plays. But it's kind of got that look and feel of a Pong game.
So each paddle, it looks like, has a different ability associated with it.
Okay.
So by selecting your paddle, you're going to be able to cause something else to happen. For example, there's one paddle where it gets bigger if it deflects a ball. There's another paddle that will cause when the ball bounces off of it, it goes into like a wave pattern.
Okay. So it's
So
Pong. It's Pong. I don't know how they're making it an RPG though.
well, it's Pong, but for example, it looks like the enemy that you're going up against, the AI, is a boss battle.
Oh, okay.
And there's stuff going on the field as you're bouncing the ball back and forth. Your when you score a goal, that's actually dealing damage to the health
Ah,
of
okay.
yeah, and it even looks like the if the pong ball itself can change depending on how you deflect it,
Well,
almost,
let me just.
or elements in the environment, and that can cause either if you deflect it, you can either take damage or heal yourself
Mm-hmm.
based on something. I don't quite understand it, but yeah, oddly enough, this is not Pong. This is something way more than Pong.
All right. So here's the description: customize your hero and take up the challenge in the new Pong battle gameplay, featuring over 50 different types of balls, each with their own unique abilities. Solve puzzles and gather precious loot as you uncover the secrets of the orbs on a journey to unlock the mystery of the spooky door. Play with up to 4 of the characters in multiplayer mayhem battles. Select your balls and perfect your own loadout as you clash with other paddles for supremacy within the Pong universe. No balls, no problem. Play with the classic rules and show the world who is the best paddle on the planet. So there you go. You play as a paddle.
Right, and there's even an overworld that you, as the paddle, are going to waddle your way through.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to contact Atari for this.
This is This could be like Atari's Pac-Man Championship Edition.
Oh boy. Oh boy. All right, and then May 8th, we have Super Mash. If you don't remember Super Mash, it was a kind of a weird game where you take two genres of games, you put them together, and you get a game.
You mash them together.
Yep. Sorry. You know I blew it. You know what? I blew it. Should I start over? I'm gonna start. No. So there are different genres. I think one is just straight up RPG, and then there's JRPG, and you can mix them with all sorts of things, right? So there's sports games, racing games, there's action games, arcade games, like all those things you can mix in with RPGs. I'm just really interested in what these other things are. Platformers, which we we see all those things, right? It's just it's all in one game, and it's kind of done instantly. It's kind of cool.
They kind of dropped the ball a little bit on naming the game because, man, when you try to research it, all you get is Smash Brothers.
Oh yeah,
because it's Super Smash, and they have Super Mash, and that's
sometimes you got to take those chances, right?
Yeah.
But it's a really interesting game. I think
absolutely is, yeah.
I think I might be in on this one. I don't know. I'm not sure. Okay, so next we have. I don't see this on the eShop yet, but if you go to dkudeals.com, you can they give you some release dates, and this one was not set to be released for a while, and all of a sudden it's there. So I don't know if it's on the Nintendo eShop yet, but we have a release date, I think, of May 12th coming up of Elder Scrolls Blades.
Finally.
I mean, if you really want to get an idea as to what this game is, you can get it for free on your phone. And it's really not the greatest Elder Scrolls experience. So, I don't know. I think this is also going to be free. I don't know what took them so long, to be honest with you. So, I don't know. Elder Scrolls Blades, May 12th. And this is the latest release for Bethesda. No one knows what else they're working on. Not a clue. Anyway, so that's our upcoming releases. Now for the topic du jour.
We're squeezing it.
You know what? No, we're not going to squeeze it in. My apologies. That's actually going to end the episode for today. I think in the next episode, actually we'll be recording it right after this, but you didn't know that. So we're going to wrap up this episode. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you everyone who sent in their. Thank you to. Sorry, let me get his. Is it Sergio? Where's his name? Sebastian. Newest starter with an S though. Thank you so much for sending in your question. Keep them coming. Remember, you can listen to the show each and every week at Switchrpg.com, and you can also subscribe on your favorite podcast listening app. So don't forget to do that and give us a rating and review. We want to climb up those charts. And finally, remember, head over to SwitchRPG.com for all your RPG needs on the Nintendo Switch. Until next time, bye!